Okay, just want to say that this is f***ing turgid.
It got quite depressing at one point.
It's my idea of absolute hell.
It was shit. It was really shit. We are still surrounded by all of these boats at anchor, and on shore, of course, all of the industrial buildings, the chimneys, the power stations, the plants, the depots. And it's just, I always think it's just amazing to see this level of commerce on this scale. You know, all of these ships, these huge monoliths dominating the horizon, you know, they've all been built somewhere. They're incredible feats of engineering, and I suspect that, you know, most people who are watching this, myself included, have never actually seen one of these things being built. A few of you have probably seen them when you've been out at sea on a ferry or sailing, you see them pass, but to see the amount of boats here really brings it in perspective, because each of these is serving a purpose. They're all taking something somewhere, whether it's cargo, could be the food that you're buying in the supermarket, the building materials for your houses, for your roads, for the buildings in your towns and cities. You know, all of these are supplying that industry, and you don't really think about it, or at least I don't really think about it until you actually see it in front of you. And it's a reminder that all this goes on. It goes on sort of behind closed doors, out of sight, out of mind. We don't think about it, but you've got ships from all over the world here. There's something, I quite like it. You know, it's not pretty to look at, but it's just to see all this on this level, this scale of industry is, it's food for thought.
I've just been looking on the AIS, just checking out some of these huge tankers behind us, and they're normally about 45 metres or so. But I found 3 that are showing 99 metres. So I think I found the biggest one. I could see that these were huge, and in the background, a long way away, there was another one that looked the same size. And I've just checked, it's Prosperity, and it's 335 metres in length and 60 metres in beam. They're just huge. They just completely dwarf all the regular tankers which are big enough. Extraordinary.
Well, we've now come round to the other side of Malaysia. We're now on the southwest corner, and we saw him this morning, this one. And he's got 4 huge cranes, which is obviously taken somewhere. But what amazes us is how the thing stays upright. It defies logic, it really does. These things are massive. I mean, God knows how many tons he's carrying on there, but how come the boat doesn't do that? I guess he has to pick the right weather window.
Just let out the sails and we turned the engine off for the first time since we left Singapore, and it's just fantastic. We're close hauled and we're getting a lovely shape and a nice straight sail. Great. I don't know what the speed is though, I haven't looked.
10 knots of wind.
Yeah. And our speed over the ground. No, we're getting 4.5, 4.7, between 4.5, 5 knots.
And what are we doing under engine?
I don't know.
We're doing 3.5 under engine.
So we've gained a knot by turning the engine off and putting the sails out. And we've got quite a lot of current against us, so when the current changes, we should see even more improvement. Let's just hope this particular wind holds. I just want to say that this is f***ing turgid. It's 10:30 at night, we've got 20 knots of wind on the nose. We're making between 1 and 2 knots. Big waves coming over the front. Malacca Strait. Loads of big ships on that side, land on that side, and fishing vessels and lighted flags coming at us everywhere. It's my idea of absolute hell. Just wanted to share that.
We knew there's going to be wind on the nose, but we didn't realise it was going to be this strong. The thing I was hoping for was the change in tides. Of course, as the tide falls, we should have picked up speed, but we're now a good hour or so into the falling tide and nothing. We're still doing between 1 and 2 knots. It's horrible. Also, as Liz said, because we've got the shipping lane on that side and we've got land on this side, it's very difficult to, you know, one theory is that you could put the sails out and sort of tack, but we don't have the space to do that, and there is nowhere to bolt into because this west coast of South Malaysia is completely exposed. There is nothing that will give us protection from this horrendous weather, so we have to stick it out. Look at that. Beautiful morning sunrise. It's like we've just had the perfect sail and just rounding off the morning as we approach our final destination with this lovely sunrise. But of course it wasn't like that at all. It was absolutely horrendous. In my experience of sailing, that was one of the most depressing sails we've done. Hold on. Millie's escaped. Millie, oi, oi, come here. Go on. Anyway, as I was saying before I was so rudely interrupted, there's so much activity going on at night. It was a very, very difficult sail. If you could call it a sail, really, it wasn't a sail because we ended up having to put the sails away. The wind was on the nose. It's still on the nose now. It hit over 22 knots. We've still got 15 knots on the nose, and it got quite depressing at one point because when we were slamming through those waves, I think we were probably averaging maybe 1.5 knots, and at one point I actually saw the speed go down to 0.1 knots, and it just felt like we were wading through treacle. It was very uncomfortable. And yeah, well, anyway, it was shit. It was really shit. As Liz says, these coastal trips, especially a nighttime one when you're going past all these big major ports, you've got Malacca just down there, you've got these huge channels coming off the shipping lane, and that's where the ships come across, or they come diagonally, and you've got to be on your toes. So we've been motoring now for it's close to 22 hours or so. So by the time we get to Port Dickson, it will be well over 24 hours. The engine's on a good 1600 RPM, 1700, so I've pushed it a bit more just to push us through this treacle. But yeah, I'm glad it's over, to be honest. Looking forward to some nice rest.
Just been to the Harbour Master and then to Customs. Harbour Master recognised us from 3 months ago, one short visit. He's so sweet, lovely. Then in Customs, we were treated like royalty. Again, lovely, kind, sweet people. We asked them where we could go to eat. We wanted just something snacky. And the girl behind the desk said, what sort of food? And we said Indian. Her face brightened up because obviously she was Indian. So after talking to about 5 other people, she drew us a little map and sent us here. And we're having some dishes from our past, some Carolan type of breakfasts any minute now. These are the types of meals we ate all the time in India. They're really typical southern Indian dishes. Mine is bardi, and it's a kind of, it's not bread.
Savoury dumpling, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like a savoury dumpling, and it always comes with different sauces, which are all fabulous curry sauces, full of spices. Jamie's very extravagant thing here, we call dosa in Kerala, and it's just comes with all kinds of sauces. I'm just gonna, and you just break bits off, dip it in the sauce, and just munch it.
Okay, so I completely destroyed my breakfast. It was very, very good. But this restaurant is actually famous for its fish head curry, which is what it's called. It's called Dean's Fish Head Curry. And this is a fish head curry. Look at this. Amazing. Very good. We have talked briefly about the problem we have with moulds, and that's because it's a very wet time of the year, and Liz, I think, is going to be tackling that sometime soon around the boat. But one of the things it does affect, of course, is the bed linen and anything that's made of cotton, canvas, materials, things like that. They do get a bit mouldy. So it's time to hit the laundrette and do some big washing. So we've done the washing, well, we've put the washing in and we're just waiting for it to finish. So we thought we'd go for another Indian breakfast. There's an Indian restaurant just down the road from where we are. So just finished off a lovely dosa, driving back, and we have a flat tyre.
You can probably tell it's been quite a few months since we got the opportunity to visit a few superstores. So we did go a little bit crazy today.
Well, apologies for the swearing in that video clip, but that really was one of the worst sales we've ever done, wasn't it?
It was awful. It was just turgid, as I said at the time, just droning on and getting nowhere.
It's like that.
Yeah, and we couldn't anchor because the waves were much too high, so they wouldn't have been any good on the windlass, would it? So.
Yeah, no. Anyway, c'est la vie. That is part of this cruising life. Yeah. And I hope, I think it's Gavin Wilkie and Ben Steele, 2 people commented on the whole, the industry and all those ships. I think Gavin said that he's actually, he's a Scots sailor based in Australia, and he goes into Singapore quite a lot and has always been fascinated by all of that industry. And Ben Steele and a couple of other people actually commented on that, the big ship with the 4 gantries, the 4 cranes on it. Just, seriously, if anyone knows how they transport that size of an object, and there were 4 of them, really want to know. I mean, do they fill?
Well, it was the fact they went like that. It looked like they should be tipping over. I didn't understand.
Well, I guess what they do is they balance.
It must be balanced.
They balance the actual cranes to be in the centre, but and I guess they. I don't know, did they fill the hull up with water? Because that's something that we saw. You didn't really see it in the videos, but we passed quite a few boats in different states of. What would you call it? Deballasting, I suppose, where, you know, a lot of these ships, they fill their hulls up with water to give them ballast, and then they will empty out all that water, and it's quite a sight to see, isn't it?
Yeah, we did. We actually went straight through a whole load that were doing that, but it was dark, because it was just getting dark, so it wasn't easy to film. But yeah, good.
But you know, some of those boats are so low in the water, you could literally step off it.
Yeah.
And yeah, those 4 that we saw, each one was at a different stage, but yeah, just fascinating, it really was. So in last week's episode, quite a few of you picked up on the whole mould issue that we've been tackling. And it was, I've got the names here, Ergo Moo, John McFarland and Phyllis Stacey are 3 people whose names I got, and I think a few other people wanted to know how we deal with the mould problem. And someone, Chabink, I think his name is, said that he came across a boat ad claiming that their boats are dry and mould free. Not quite sure about that, to be honest, What do you reckon, Liz?
Well, I think perhaps if you're in the northern hemisphere where the humidity perhaps isn't quite so bad, that might be true. But really, it's all about where you are. If you're in a place like this, in the tropics basically, you've got humidity 80, 90%, massive humidity. And unless you've got AC and you've got your AC on dry, you're going to have a boat full of very saturated air.
Well, of course, quite a few people said, well, you know, get an AC unit.
Yeah.
But, well, that's all very well when you're plugged into shore power. But don't forget, you know, most of the time we are normally at anchor. And you can't run those kind of things. And I think even boat AC systems consume a lot of power. So not an option.
No, it's not. So in India was the first time we came across it, and we did mount an AC unit there because we knew we'd be there for a while. So we had an AC unit plugged into shore power, and we kept the boat pretty dry because we either had it on cool, or when we were off the boat or at night we put it on dry. So we were the only boat really around that area that didn't get any mould. Then we came over here, we had to get rid of the AC, and we've been dealing with it ever since really, haven't we? Yeah. So that particular episode was pretty bad. We'd been at anchor, and the rain, if you've probably been watching our previous episodes, had been coming for days and weeks. So we couldn't leave the hatches open because we couldn't cover the whole boat. We can cover the cockpit, but not the whole boat. So what you do with it, really, there are two things. If you're an eco-warrior and you're worried about the environment, you should use vinegar, white vinegar. I've tried it. I don't like it because it smells.
It smells of fish and chip shops.
Yeah, it does a bit. So the next one is to use some kind of detergent to clean it. So elbow grease and detergent, and then a fine mist of bleach water will kill the spores and kill it dead and stop it.
That's what Bill Baker, by the way, he commented on that and recommended waterdown bleach.
Yes, I've been doing that for a few years, and it works really, really well. But you have to get into all the lockers. You can't just, you know, can't just do the bits you can see because it's growing everywhere and underneath the building and everything. So get rid of that, and then you're okay. And then it's really a matter of circulating air, getting as much air into the boat as you can. So as soon as there's no rain, we have everything open. We circulate the air, and we do have fans to help that.
And something else I read was that when you spray the mould, you're supposed to spray it and then leave whatever it is you're spraying on it for 10 minutes. Don't touch it, because if you rub the mould, you lift up the spores, you circulate the spores. So you're supposed to spray it, not touch it for 10 minutes. So whatever it is will kill the spores, and then wipe it off
and let it dry naturally. Yeah. So there you go.
Okay, well, I hope that answers your questions. And by the way, we are racing up this west coast through our episodes to try and catch up. As you know, normally when we do our vlogs, we like to be as real time as possible, normally within a few days of recording it. Because of our Anamis adventures, we're a little bit behind, so we're now racing up that west coast, and we'll be catching up with Here and Now very soon. But in the meantime, if you like the video, please don't forget to share it. Please do share it across your social media networks. Hit that like button, and if you haven't yet subscribed to our YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button.
And comments, yeah.
Oh yeah, comments.
Yeah, comments. Comments really, really important to us. We learn so much from the comments, and we try to reply to every single one. So if you comment, we will try to reply.
In fact, we've got a couple of episode extras coming up, haven't we, where we're actually going to be looking for your comments. We're looking for your advice, so stay tuned on that. But in the meantime, peace and fair winds.